And welcome to day 47 of the Atlantic Hurricane season, day number 65 in the Eastern Pacific. It's July the 17th, and this is the world tropics at the moment. You can see it's quite quiet at the moment, apart from the one system that we currently have, Tropical Depression 8W in the Western Pacific, just off the coast of the Philippines. It may have even made landfall in the past few hours or so on the island of Luzon in the northern Philippines, and could turn into a tropical storm in a day or so. This is the Pacific Ocean satellite imagery then. It's the only thing going on at the moment. There is a lot of cloud cover over that region now, the South China Sea. There is a little bit of a disturbance down there as well. That could be the next system that forms, because the models are hinting at that. But at the moment we have Tropical Depression 8W, which is just off the coast of the eastern Philippines and is expected to move towards the northwest over the next few days. More on that in a moment. The Atlantic Ocean here, we have the Atlantic. And there was an Invest tagged earlier in the day by National Hurricane Center, Invest 97L, which is that little feature there in the the western part of the Gulf of Mexico, and that was since de-designated, you could say, I suppose, earlier this evening, declassified, or so it appears. Anyway, the Navy still have it up as Invest 97, but as far as I can see on the ATCF information, it's gone. And this is the Indian Ocean, fairly quiet over there as well, not too much going on in activity at the moment. Sea surface temperatures, and we currently have warm temperatures off the coast of Mexico, the western part of Mexico in particular. On the Pacific side, the northwestern Gulf of Mexico remains warm, around 28 to 30 Celsius. The Atlantic in general is fairly warm as well, 28 degree waters extending quite far to the north in some regions. And in the Pacific as well, warm waters here. Though you can see a bit of a cool spot where we had Soulik not too long ago, but near the Philippines in particular, where TD8 is at the moment, things are looking fairly warm. This is Tropical Depression 8W. The Philippine name is Isang at the moment. This is the wind speed, currently 30 miles per hour. Pressure's 1003 millibars, deepening ever so slightly. Position is currently 17.1 degrees north, 123.1 degrees east, and the storm's expected to move towards the northwest. Its window of opportunity to become a tropical storm is dwindling slightly, and it probably will remain a weak system. Signal 1 warnings are in effect nonetheless for the northern half of Luzon in the Philippines. More in detail information about the warnings on the website. This is the overview of the satellite imagery over the past 24 hours. Then in the Pacific, you can see the system moving generally in northwest direction, and the core of the storm is just very close to the eastern coast of the Philippines at the moment. But there's a lot of clouds associated with the storm to the east and the west of the Philippines. So over the whole island of Luzon, we're seeing lots of heavy rain occurring at the moment. You can see it a bit more clearly here on the floater imagery. This is the infrared imagery. You can see the core of the storm moving towards the northwest, just moving over land at the moment on the very northern tip of Luzon, and then it's expected to move continuing towards the northwest, and then may move past Taiwan and then possibly make landfall in China as a weak system in around 2 or 3 days' time. Looking at the model runs then, the CMC model first of all has a little bit of a wave moving through the eastern Pacific, though not really anything in the Atlantic, though it does have a little bit of a very weak system in the western part of the Gulf of Mexico. Could be a result of what is 97W, which could form into a very weak depression perhaps. The ECMWF model has in the eastern Pacific a storm forming, becoming a hurricane towards the end of that run, though it is still quite a way out, 9 or 10 days from now, so it could change between now and then. Not 9 or 10 days, more 6 or 7, but still quite a long way out. Looking at the GFS model, also predicting a system in the eastern Pacific, a weak storm by the looks of it at the moment. And in the Atlantic, quite an interesting development as well, another storm forming near the Cape Verde Islands towards the end of that run there. The NavGem model has a bit of a wave moving through that very same region as well, so perhaps we could be hinting at least a tropical wave moving through there, which has the potential to develop into a tropical storm. Looking at the CMC model for the Western Pacific, you can see the South China Sea disturbance developing into what looks like a strong tropical storm, maybe a typhoon, as it moves through the island of Hainan and then stalls off the coast of Vietnam before finally moving ashore. The GFS model as well has the current storm moving towards the northwest past Taiwan and into China, and with the next storm probably not being particularly strong, probably a very weak storm near the island of Hainan and Vietnam, if indeed it does form at all. Perhaps a little bit of a system at the very end there in the Western Pacific in the Philippine Sea. Looking at the overall predictor season scores then for July the 17th, no change. There are no new storms that have been named as a tropical storm yet. Ken remains in first with 79 points, Typhoon Bopa in second with 71, and William in third with 71 points as well. And don't forget, you can submit your own storm totals at the website force13.com/interactive. Just click the 2013 Predictor Season button and fill out the form which shows how many storms you want in each basin. And it will be very interesting at the end of the year, of course, when we find out who wins. But please do just hurry up with that, because the scores are going down as time goes on. Looking at July the 17th, then, on this day, 1979, Tropical Storm Dolores formed in the Eastern Pacific. In 82, Tropical Storm Fabio also formed there. You can see it there on that satellite imagery. In 1983, Tropical Storm Flossie also formed in the Eastern Pacific, also pictured there. In 1992, Hurricane Estelle dissipated in the Eastern Pacific, and in 1995, Tropical Storm Cosme formed in, you guessed it, the Eastern Pacific once more. In 1998, Tropical Storm Celia formed also in the Eastern Pacific. That one's pictured there at peak intensity. In 1999, Hurricane Beatrice dissipated in the Eastern Pacific. In 2003, Tropical Storm Felicia formed as well, and in 2006, an unnamed tropical storm formed in the Atlantic. There it is, pictured quite far towards the north. There you can see the northeastern United States and the Atlantic Canada region as well, Nova Scotia on that imagery there. In 2008, Kau Maegi made landfall in Taiwan as a Category 2 typhoon with 25 fatalities and $333 million of damages. In 2010, Tropical Storm Konson made landfall in Vietnam, causing 4 fatalities and $70 million of damages. Tropical Storm Chanthu also formed in the Western Pacific on that day. And in 2011, 2 years ago, Tropical Storm Brett formed in the Atlantic. That one's pictured at the end there as well. And don't forget, you can track any storm that forms, or indeed any that are active at the moment. There is one. And the website, force13.com/storm tracking. That's the main page for the storm tracking. So you're presented with the overall map showing which storms are active, with the tables at the top and bottom showing which storms are active, their intensities, and indeed any warnings that are in effect at a glance. And then you can go more in depth, basin by basin, to see what's going on in each area of the world with the storm tracking maps and any warnings that are currently in effect in more detail, and obviously more information on the storm itself as well. So obviously quite interesting, and of course fairly important as well in the Philippines, where we currently have signal 1 warnings in effect, and if the storm does intensify as it begins to move away from the island of Luzon, signal 2 warnings may still go into effect. And don't forget, you can visit Force 13 through any of the social mediums that we use, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. On all 3 of those, just search Force 13, you should find it fairly easily enough. And don't forget to show your support by liking, commenting, subscribing, favouriting, or indeed anything else that you may think of that is supportive towards the Force 13 cause, I suppose you could say. I do appreciate anything positive that comes out of your engagement on the YouTube channel, indeed elsewhere and beyond that. Thank you very much for all that you have said in the past and indeed in the future. And the next bulletin will be coming up in earnest probably around midnight UTC on the 18th of July. That would be Thursday morning, early hours of Thursday morning UTC, with a possible update in between if Tropical Depression 8 becomes a tropical storm in the next 24 hours.